Alright, so today I want to talk about this story out of the Post-Millennial, and it's titled Trudeau's Carbon Tax Did Not Reduce Greenhouse Gas Emissions According to New Data. Now let's read a little bit about it here and then I'll get into it. New data from the Department of Environment has found the carbon tax, a Trudeau government-led policy designed to reduce emissions and put a price on pollution, had no effect on lowering greenhouse gases. Blacklock's reporter has found the department laid blame on home heating for the spike in fuel use, despite the national tax. Um, this increase is attributed to higher fuel consumption for transportation, winter heating, and oil and gas extraction. Staff wrote in a national inventory report 1990 to 2018. Staff cited colder winter weather. Again, that goes against the whole climate change idea. I thought more carbon increases the temperature. So again, that argument that doesn't make any sense. Throughout the first year of the carbon tax in 2018, emissions grew by 15%. The tax was passed in Parliament from the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act. MPs from across the aisle roasted the Liberals for the lack of specifics when it came to the tax, with then Conservative MP Robert Sopok asking for specific numbers. Canadians are being asked to pony out money for a carbon tax, and this government has absolutely no idea what the effect will be, said Sopik. What's the number? Again, the fact that the government doesn't have a number it's just more evidence on top of the idea that it doesn't work. If they're just throwing it at a whim, oh, we think it'll work, and yet they have no evidence to back it up whatsoever. Again, this is such a crazy idea. These people that think that this is a good idea, it's crazy. Um, Green programs have taken plenty out of the public wallet, and despite two provinces' coal-burning power plants closing shop in Manitoba and Ontario, emissions still grew. Between 2014 and 2019, the Government of Canada invested $60 billion to drive down greenhouse gas emissions, generate clean technologies, help Canadians and communities adapt to a changing climate, and protect the environment. Emissions also rose due to an increase in road vehicles that the national inventory found. This aligned with studies that found Canadians would not be able to shorten their commutes in the face of a carbon tax. A few did recognize the cost of implications of global warming and did not think that taxing greenhouse gas emissions could be a way to spur behavioral change and the development of cleaner technology, but these participants were outnumbered by those who expressed cynicism about how the money from a greenhouse gas emissions tax would be spent by the government collecting it, Department of Natural Resources said. So the point to get across here is, number one, I made a video about the BC government's one. There's over, I think, 11 or 12 years, reduced it by 0.5%. Again, the government's not, sorry, the government's own numbers show that. And again, they're a left-wing government, so they have no reason to lie. If anything, they'd have a reason to make them look to have a higher percentage. But I wouldn't even argue that. So that, again, the whole point being here is that the carbon tax doesn't work. This is more than enough. We already had more than enough evidence. This is just more evidence on top of that. And I really cannot stand these people that still defend it. I mean, the government spent $60 billion over the last 5 years, and it's had no effect. If we spent $60 billion in 5 years and it had no effect, what more could we possibly do to have an effect? Do you want to tax? Do you want to double people's taxes to make a 0.5, 1-2% chance? Sorry, 1 or 2% change? Is that literally what these people are arguing? Because that's the only way your argument makes sense. But again, just the economic illiteracies and the just total illiteracies of these people is absolutely astounding too. And like I always point out too, is that you can agree that climate change is I mean, I don't whatsoever, but you can agree that climate change and think that climate change is something we need to address as a society, but not support a carbon tax. I've talked to plenty of people that I mean, they're clearly brainwashed a little bit, but that think climate change is an issue we have to deal with, but don't believe in a carbon tax. I've hardly met anyone in person who believes in a carbon tax. Maybe that's because just where I'm from, but again, and not to mention too, I've hardly met anyone who is an outright 100% climate skeptic at the level I am. So I mean that goes to that goes to show quite a bit too, that most people seem to have the opinion that climate, at least people who aren't hard left or hard right, um, which the hard left group is a lot bigger, but most people seem to have the idea that climate change is an issue, but a carbon tax isn't the way to solve it. I think it's a pretty fair assessment. I don't have any study to do that, but based off what I've seen online, based off what I've, in talking to people, that's what I've found. But anyway, getting back to the main topic, the problem with this, like it goes, like I mentioned too, is that if $60 billion isn't enough, then what will be? I mean, 60 billion didn't even make a dent. It'd be one thing if it dropped things 3, 4, 5%. I could see, yeah, maybe, yeah, we're making a slight change, but it did literally nothing. It did the opposite of what it was intended for. So again, I can't understand for the life of me why people still defend this. Now, the reason why people defend it is, number one, they know. I mean, it's blatantly obvious it doesn't work. No one can argue in good faith that it works. The reason why people defend it and argue for it is that it's more government, it's more taxation, it's more socialism. That's why people believe in it. I mean, and for the people scoffing, oh no, we care about the environment. Well, no, you actually really don't. You care about implementing more government control, more taxation, more socialism. The person who co-created the Green New Deal literally admitted this. Literally admitted this. The Green New Deal talks more, if you actually read the Green New Deal, it talks more about implementing more socialist, social justice warrior kind of policies than it does talking about climate change. So again, the idea that these people want to curb climate change or any of this kind of stuff, it's a hoax. It's a fallacy. I mean, they may care about it a little bit. I'm not saying they completely don't care about it, but the main goal is socialism. Like, let's just be honest about that. Like, we have this political divide nowadays. It's getting bigger and bigger. And the main reason for it is we have one side pretending to be, oh, we're moderate lefties, we're moderates. And I literally see these people all the time on social media. They've never seen a socialist far left policy that they don't agree with, but yet they'll turn around and be, yep, I'm a moderate. Like, I've seen people that have thousands of followers on social media for political pages that claim this. And again, it's absolutely crazy, and we can't have a political discussion if that's where we're going to be at. Like, we can't, because we have one side that's completely lying about their intentions, and the fact that you're completely lying about your intentions just go to show that your intentions aren't good. Because if they were good, you wouldn't lie about them. You wouldn't lie about them if they weren't good. And you know that the majority of people disagree with you. And I really don't care whether or not the majority of people agree with a position or not. But in a situation like this, that really goes to show just how bad it is. So again, I really need to make videos about this kind of stuff because the carbon tax costs people a ton of money. And again, I can't stand these. You'll see these idiots every now and then in the comment section. He's like, "Oh, you think you're losing a lot of money because 5 or 10 cents a liter on gas?" Well, again, it just goes to show just how illiterate these people are. Like, so stupid and dumbed down, it's not even funny. Like I use the example too. Take food for example, or pretty much any product you buy, but food's a good example. Um, okay, so you have food. Okay, well, the food needs to be planted, most likely with a machine that's gas powered. How Not only that, before that, how did the farmer go buy the food? With a gas powered truck. How did the food get to the store that the farmer bought it at? A gas powered truck. The store needs fuel to heat and cool or keep their lights on. Again, that's more carbon tax on top of that. Okay, the fuel, the food needs to be more than likely sprayed a lot of times, multiple times. Okay, that's more gas. The food needs to be harvested. Okay, that's more gas. That's a ton of gas. I mean, talk to any farmer about how much gas they use during harvest is insane. um, and then, okay, the food needs to be taken to the refinery or the place that they sell their grain to, whoever they have the contract with. Okay, they need a truck, which is diesel or gas powered to do that. Okay, the grain may need to be dried because a lot of times it's too wet to sell, so it needs to be dried. Which, guess what? That's diesel. Okay, there's more tax on top of that. Then the food needs to be needs to be broken down, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, more gas, more lights. So again, the stuff is the carbon tax affects the stuff you buy literally an infinite amount of times. I mean, you could count it if you really wanted, but it's more than you can count off the top of your head. So for all the people think, oh, it's just 5 cents a liter on gas. Well, yeah, before you know it, it's been taxed 10, 20 times for a product you buy. So again, people who make that argument are so illiterate, it's not even funny. And again, they're the kind of people that think that food just magically shows up in grocery stores. Like literally, that's where we're at too. But anyway, like I say, I need to make a video. I need to make videos about this kind of stuff because people are so illiterate when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's not even funny. And like I say, people don't realize how much money it costs them too. Like if you've been keeping track of food prices, I mean, I've only been buying food on my own for like 3 or 4 years, and I've noticed that food prices have gone up a pretty good degree in that amount of time. Imagine, gas. What is the carbon tax now? 10, 15 cents a liter. Imagine if the gas was that much cheaper, how much more money you'd have to save. And the people don't realize too. The other, the fundamental thing that the left doesn't understand is that they think that if that tax wasn't there, the people are just going to hoard that money. No, people spend that money in another way. And the reason why it's better to not do it that way is people spend it in a way that they actually want to spend it, rather than the government stealing it and the government arbitrarily spending it on something that may or may not even need to be done. If you let the people spend the money, they'll spend it on stuff that's actually meaningful. In other words, the government steals the money and gives it to taxi cab companies, and if they didn't tax that money, the people would spend it on Uber or Lyft or one of these more innovative companies. That's basically the equivalent that I'm trying to point out here. So that the government will take it because the government doesn't know what's best to spend the money on. The people know what's best to spend the money on because the people want to get the best price for the products, for the best quality products, right? It's a give and take. You don't want to spend insane amounts of money, but you still want to get very good quality, so you got to meet in the middle. And again, that's why it's important not to tax the what out of people, because when you don't, they don't just hoard the money. Again, the left just has this idea that people just hoard money and they never spend it on anything. They just let it sit in a bank account. And again, it's a terrible fallacy because rich people, I mean anybody, but rich people don't get rich by working a 9 to 5, letting their bank account pile up. They use their money in ways that generates interest. And again, that's a different topic, but I just wanted to point it out. So um, long story short, the carbon tax does not work. We've known this for a while. This is just more evidence on top of the fact that, or on top of the evidence we already had. And like I say, people still arguing for the carbon tax at this point are people that just want socialism. Like, let's just be honest about it already. Like, you're not fooling anyone. You're not fooling anyone. So I'm going to leave it there. If you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal. I got linked in the description. I also have an email address for e-transfer. I appreciate any donations, but really, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And last thing, as always, check out my BitChute channel.